Good day, instructional leaders of Marietta Valley Unified, and welcome back to our Tesseract project, the long-term plan for professional development of ourselves, the leaders, as well as the teachers that we serve. We are now on to our next activity, PLC pre-unit meeting protocols. Before we dive into those, let's remember that the purpose of the Tesseract project is to radically improve the education at our schools through focused, customized professional development of our leadership. Why so much our leadership? Because our basic principles state that the kids don't improve until the teachers improve. So you see this teacher here trying to hold up this student. How do we get that teacher to rise up so that the students will rise up? Well, we have to lead them. The issue is that there are few of us and many of them. In fact, I want to give you some perspective. My brother is an executive at a telecom company, so he works in corporate. And I asked him about how many people would he oversee and have to evaluate, whether it's an executive over the sales manager and the sales manager over the sales reps. And typically that hierarchy starts, going down to the next level as soon as you get into double digits. So typically they're going to be overseeing and evaluating, like my brother's case, he'll oversee 6 to 9 sales managers. Whereas my understanding as principal of a high school, I think you're upwards of around 50 if you start counting in all the certificate and classified that you have to oversee. So it is unrealistic to think that you're going to be able to coach and improve by a one-on-one relationship with all your teachers. You're just too outnumbered. So what we need is to find some leverage. So where can you put your energies and your focus, apply a little bit of pressure, and get a lot of gain? Right now, you're running around and doing a lot of things. And I was just sharing with a principal from another district on this very topic that we are implementing so many different programs and ideas and projects and activities that teachers are trying to do to reach more kids. And we have to do all that because we're not focused on improving the teachers to lift them up. If we can get that going, then a lot of the other stuff that you have to do falls away. So one of my great wishes is that when you get your plan in place and actually implement it, that you find that you are doing less. This project is not to give you more to work on, but to make your life easier. So how are we going to do that? Where do we apply that leverage? Well, we've been saying it's going to be through the PLCs. So focus your attention there. Let's get this thing in place, and then much of what we're trying to solve all the time will take care of itself. Those are our axioms. Students don't improve until teachers improve. Teachers don't improve until the leaders improve, and the system is getting exactly the results it was designed to get. So we're going to change the system so we have a place to apply leverage. Our symbolism is staying the same for the next several activities because they all deal with what we talked about last time, which was PLC structures. And now we're going to go through the pre-unit protocols, the intra-unit or the middle of the unit protocols, and the post-unit protocols. So that structure, remember we talked about having scaffolding for teachers so they can climb and they can rise, but it's not just the systems we're going to put in place. We need protocols. What we find is that molecules work not only because of the atoms that are in them, but the rules in which they interact. So we need protocols to drive how teachers interact. We're going to put these structures in place. So if you look at that picture of the Tesseract there, you can see how it visually represents there is this consistent structure. And this also came from Rick DeFore, and in this idea that, and I didn't buy into it at the time, I have to tell you, he said that everyone tries to change people's beliefs in order to change their behaviors. And if you can change their behaviors, though, you can get them to change their beliefs. And I didn't buy into that at first. And then the more and more that I experienced it, the more and more I realized that Rick DeFore is right. If we put the structures in place and we determine the rules, which we have the power to do as leaders, we can dictate the work of the day on our sites and how it's going to happen. And then the teachers start behaving a certain way, and then they start seeing results, and therefore their beliefs change. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on the structures. You're looking at your plan or objective today is this line right here is looking at the things that we want to be training teachers to do at the beginning of a unit. And you'll see there that after that, we're going to look at the entry unit, what goes on in the middle, and the post unit. And for each of these phases, there are documents currently being developed in the advisory committee for our guaranteed and viable common curriculum. And so those documents will support the work that I'm about to share with you. So when you look on the Tesseract plan, and if you don't have these documents with you, they're all on the page in Haiku, the main page. You're going to see that we're looking at this pre-unit. What are these things that the teacher should be doing on a regular habitual basis at the beginning of a unit? Well, let's look. According to Luis Cruz, this is our definition of a PLC. Again, 2 sentences. And we're going to focus today on the ongoing process in which educators work collaboratively in recurring cycles of collective inquiry. So if you look at that list, we're focusing on the ongoing process, the educators working collaboratively, and going through the cycles of inquiry. So the pre-unit implies what's going on at the beginning of that cycle. What is the why for what we're going to be asking the teachers to do? So here is the list. Again, I give you the list just as something to think about. You may shorten the list, lengthen the list, modify things on the list. This is going to be your plan. You know your school. But let me give you some ideas of what we should be thinking about getting teachers to do near the beginning of a unit. And that is the standards alignment. So they should be looking at the document that we're going to call the unit planning organizer. And it'll list the standards. It'll also identify what are the majority standards, essential standards, power standards, whatever you may be used to calling those. Things like the prerequisite skills. We'll get into a minute resources that they can use for the tasks. What are the essential questions and the big ideas of the unit? All those kinds of things will be in that unit planning organizer. So the teachers sit and collectively discuss, hey, what are we out to accomplish? What are we going to be teaching the kids? And then comes the piece, is there any content learning? So we're going to have to put some things in place so that if the teachers need to bolster their content knowledge of what they're expected to teach, that we have a way to deliver that. If we don't right now, then that may be a conversation that we have to have. Pedagogical learning. So right now, if we want teachers to do something other than stand and deliver, other than just give notes every day, do we have training, professional development? Have we given them models of what else to do that has been effective? Do teachers understand what the best practices are for their subject area? So how are we going to deliver that to them? Choosing of the task. So these are the high cognitive demand tasks, basically meaning the teachers are going to sit at the beginning of a unit and look at that particular unit and decide what is the common high cognitive demand task or the activity that's going to require higher order thinking skills, and teach it as a lesson. Which one are we going to do? We're not going to ask teachers to walk lockstep through a unit. We're going to ask them to choose a task and then do that together. We're going to ask them to do a formative assessment somewhere in the middle. It could be look at the student work from the task. It could be a quiz, whatever that case may be. They decide what that's going to be. The intervention, we hear a lot about this, and we know we're moving into placing structures in the school day, but I want to let you know that we're not going to be looking for, I'm going to strongly suggest you don't train your teachers or push your teachers to do a formative, let's say it's a 6-week unit, let's do a formative assessment, let's give a quiz 3 weeks in, find out who's not ready for the test, and then do a couple of weeks of intervention so we can get kids improving on the test. What we're finding is the biggest complaint of teachers, and it's very valid, and there's a lot of reasons for it we'll discuss in the specific activity on prerequisite skills, but that kids are not coming prepared to a particular course. So if we want them to be successful, it's not about training for that course or helping bolster that course, but intervention on the prerequisite skills that it takes to be successful for the particular unit. We're going to ask them to write common assessments. Many of you know backwards planning and been trained or read about this. And then finally, the dual targets. So we're going to be asking teachers not just the content pieces, not just specific content standards, but also the habits of mind, the thinking standards. In math, it's called the standards of mathematical practice. You'll see SMPs, science and engineering practices, and the anchor standards for English. What else may I have missed? Put that on this list, shorten the list, throw out some things, modify some things. It's your call. It's going to be your plan. In fact, you're going to start from the end and you're going to say, hey, 6 years from now, What would I really like to see as the ultimate goal? If teachers were just crushing it at the beginning of a unit and really the PLC was working really good at the front end of the cycle of inquiry, what would that look like? Write that there and then take these things that I shared and place them out over the 6 years, because you're not going to get that list in place next year or even in the next 2 years. So what is there an order to it? Is this a specific order? Where would you place these things? Spread it all out over that 6 year plan. I give you another card sort to do that. So look, student.desmos.com, and there's the code. You're going to go there, do your card sort, and then record your results in the spreadsheet. Again, if you don't have this, go to the homepage of Haiku. But that's it, folks. That's what this one is about. So your activity or your task for this activity is go to Haiku, do that card sort, put your plan in place, and then please leave some comments or questions on the discussion that I left for you there, because that's how I know how you are moving forward in changing this world. And we'll chat with you next time.